Over the last month, I've talked to hundreds of Minnesotans all around the state, small business owners and farmers, educators, community organizers. And with the pandemic, Minnesotans are really struggling to create opportunity for themselves and those that they love. But despite all these hardships, we just can't give up on each other. Now is the time to lift up our friends and our neighbors. We need to continue to take the steps we need to keep our fellow Minnesotans safe. And we can overcome the challenges that COVID-19 has created. But in order to do this, we have to come together. We need to work together so that our economy can reopen safely, so that our teachers can go back to school without worrying about their health or the health of their students, so farmers can grow the food that we need, and so we can hold our loved ones again. Now is not the time for party politics. And I know that after speaking with all of you, I know that we are ready to beat this thing. So let's get to work.
Hey everyone, good morning. For those who I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, I'm Ryan Furlong. I am Senator Tina Smith's campaign manager. First, just wanted to thank all of you for joining us this morning, thanking you for helping us kick off this first virtual weekend of action and for supporting Senator Smith. I know there are a lot of things that you could be doing on a Saturday morning, and so I am just so grateful that you chose to spend it with us. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, so I will not take up a lot of time up here. We are, of course, all here this morning virtually, after learning last night of the passing of Justice Ginsburg. And I think we can all probably agree that last night was really hard, that this morning is hard, that the days ahead are going to be hard, and that the legacy that she leaves behind of fighting for justice and equality, in my opinion, is near impossible to capture in a single sentence or thought. And I know that the speakers you will hear from this morning will have much more profound things to say about her legacy and what it meant to them and what it means for the work that we do. But I came across this quote from a colleague of mine that I thought captured really one of the many emotions that I'm feeling this morning. And it read, "Thank you for paving the way for women and carrying the weight of this country on your shoulders. It's our turn now. Let's mourn tonight. There's work to do in the morning." And I thought that really captured the sentiment that I'm feeling really well. There are 45 days until the election. The last 24 hours in Minnesota and in this country, I think, have really just made clear how much is at stake. And there is no one, and I mean no one, that I would rather have fighting on behalf of Minnesota and on behalf of Justice Ginsburg's legacy than our first speaker. Because if there is one thing I know, it is that Senator Tina Smith is going to fight like hell these next 45 days, is going to hold Mitch McConnell's feet to the fire, and is going to be the fighter and the voice that we need in this moment. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to our amazing US Senator, Tina Smith.
Oh, Ryan, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And thanks to all of my incredible campaign team to be on this call this morning. And I want to especially thank our speakers today. We've got Mayor Emily Larson, we've got Julie Blaha, we've got Ruth Richardson, and let's see, we've got, I think, Michelle, who is on my deputy, is going to be speaking as well. And I know Erin McQuaid is with us as well, an incredible, powerful group of women. So it means a lot to me that you joined us today on this morning that we are thinking about the loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I was in the car last night when my chief of staff called me. I was driving back from Duluth, and when he told me, and the first thing I noticed was just how personal this feels. And I wonder if other folks on this Zoom today had that same feeling. It just is, it feels very personal, like a personal loss. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was born in 1933, which was a year after my mother was born. And she was described as a demure firebrand. And I think about the women on this call and men who who were born in a different generation. But I was thinking about my mother and how my mother's opportunities to do the things that she wanted to do, to live her fullest life, were really so constrained by her gender. I remember her telling me when she graduated from college that she felt like she had 3 opportunities. She could go to law school, she could be a secretary, a nurse, or a teacher. The idea that she could go to law school or become a journalist or it just wasn't even really within the frame of reference that she had. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg changed all that. You know, she was one of 9 women in her Harvard Law School class of 500. And when she graduated, she couldn't get a job. She was one of the top members of that law school class. And it took the men in her life to basically force open doors for her. And she became the architect for gender equality in this country, a righteous fighter, a fighter for justice. I was thinking about the things that she accomplished and both when she was moving forward court cases that expanded gender equality, and also when she was dissenting, especially in these later years, she was dissenting against some bad cases. And I wanted to just quickly mention 2 to you because they mean so much to me. The first case I wanted to just remind you of is Burwell versus the Hobby Lobby. That was in 2014. And you'll remember that the Supreme Court decided that for-profit companies can refuse on religious grounds to provide health insurance for contraception to women. And Ginsburg said that such an exemption would deny legions of women who do not hold their employees' religious views access to contraceptive coverage. And she said, what would be the stopping point here? Would offenses for religious views, what if an employer said it offended their religious views, his religious views, to pay the minimum wage or to pay equal pay to women? That was the sort of moral strength of RBG's voice in this moment. It's also it's so amazing to think that she died just right before the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. And the tradition in the Jewish tradition is that those who die just before the beginning of the new year are the ones that God held back until the last moment because they were needed the most. They were the most righteous. She also said that her most fervent wish is that I will not be replaced until a new president is installed. And, you know, she worked as hard as she could for as long as she could. And now it is up to us to carry forth this work. And that is what is on my mind this morning. Now, I know that people are really worried right now. I see it every single day. I saw it in Duluth and Hermantown, and I've seen it all over this state. People are worried. They're wondering what else could happen in this year? What else are we going to have to cope with? But I want you all to think, you know, worry is not a strategy. Organizing, that is our strategy. And so I want you to know what I'm going to do in these next 45 days. First, I am going to do everything that I can to make sure that Joe Biden is the next president who picks the next Supreme Court justice. We have to make that happen. I am going to do everything that I possibly can do to make sure that I win this Senate seat, that we win this Senate seat in Minnesota that is so precious to us. And then that we win back the United States Senate. And this is within our grasp if we do the work that we have to do. And I want you to know that I am going to fight with everything that I have to stop Mitch McConnell with his just shameless hypocrisy and his blatant disregard for our democracy from pushing forward a Supreme Court justice in this moment. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to talk to my colleagues. I'm going to organize. I'm going to work. I'm going to do everything. So that is really the job that we have ahead of us. Now, what happens to the Supreme Court is crucially important. Of course, we have so many other issues. It almost is overwhelming, right? There are so many things we have to care about. But if you're wondering what the energy is like out there, I want you to think of something that Ryan just shared with me a few minutes ago, which is that last night, in about 4 hours, Democrats gave more than $20 million through Act Blue. Now think of that. That means that individuals giving $1, $5, $10, $25 realize that in this moment they have to step up. And yesterday was the first day of early voting, and think about what that looked like. In Minnesota and in Virginia, people were waiting in line. In Virginia, they waited in line for 2 hours because they wanted to be so sure that they voted on the first day of early voting. So that's what is at stake here. That's what we're dealing with. And so I just want you to think about this as you imagine the work that we have to do ahead of us in the next 45 days. You are going to remember these next 45 days. You're going to remember how you felt. You're going to remember the work that you did. You're going to remember how you turned worry into action. You're going to remember the conversations that you had and the connections that you made and the relationships that you built for the good of our country and winning these elections and for our democracy. And today you're going to be calling people, and you're going to be talking to people who feel just as worried as you do, just as concerned, just as maybe even wondering whether they can actually make a difference in this massive scale of challenge in our country. But because they talk to you, because you made this effort, they're going to understand differently that that's the power that they have in this democracy, that it is we the people. We the people have the power to shape this democracy, but only if we use our voice. Only if we realize that democracy is hard work, but it is our work. It is the work that we're born to do as citizens of this country. It is the work that we're born to do, whether we were born any place else in the world, and now this is our country. I'm just so grateful for all of you. I'm so grateful for my friends, my sisters who have joined today to help to inspire us and fuel us in this weekend of action. And I want you to think about the promise that we have, the promise yet to be fulfilled in this country, the promise of our Constitution that we, the people, get to decide. We, the people, are the ones who can lead our country forward. So I am filled, my heart is filled with gratitude for all of you, for the work that we have to do. Thank you so much, Ryan and Alyssa and everybody on this call. And take care, be well, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator Smith. I can't think of a perfect person to hear from on this morning after the loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So thank you so much, Senator. And I am so excited to turn it over to our first speaker, the wonderful Erin May Quaid.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Erin May Quaid. I use she, her pronouns. You can probably hear it in my voice. It has been a rough year, week, month, but I do want to say Shahana Tova to any folks who are celebrating the new year. I hope your new year is good and sweet. In my day job, I work at an organization called Gender Justice, where we fight for gender equity through the law. And it has been a deep pleasure of mine that in this the past 2 years that I've been in this job, I've gotten to really dig into court stuff and Supreme Court stuff. I get to read decisions and opinions, and I've listened to oral arguments, things that I never thought I would be doing in my entire life. And I've spent more time with the work and the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the last 2 years than I have in my entire life. And something that really struck me last night when I was laying in bed was thinking about how often when she would speak, she would call in the people whose shoulders she stood on. She was very rarely a woman who did something alone. And when she did do something alone, she never just spoke of it as if it was her own, but she recognized the people that came before her. And so I was looking today, because I just saw this video not that long ago, but when she was being confirmed by the Senate, she, in her prepared remarks, said, "We could not have come to this point, and surely I would not be in this room today without the determined efforts of men and women who kept dreams of equal citizenship alive in days when few people would listen. People like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Harriet Tubman come to mind." And I just think that it is so profound that we are mourning the loss, the legacy of a giant, right? A tall, metaphorically tall, large, tiny giant. And that person always turned our attention to the people whose shoulders she stood on. And now it's our turn to stand on her shoulders. Thankfully, she was visiting a trainer for most of the end of her life. And I also want to bring in the words of Harriet Tubman that she called into her Senate confirmation hearing. On her deathbed, Harriet Tubman said, "Stick together." And she was talking to the white and Black feminists who were working together to secure the vote. She wanted them to stick together. Don't sacrifice some of you for other wins for others of you. And I'm going to carry that with me because we do need to stick together. The last act of oppression is not death, it is despair. It is to convince you that nothing that you do can change what is happening, so you might as well give up. And that is not true. And I know that I am feeling despair right now. I know it is very easy to feel despair, but I'm holding on to the words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I'm holding on to the words of Harriet Tubman. We need to stick together. We need to remember that we stand on shoulders, and we need to remember that what we are doing matters. It is important, and it can change what is happening and the course of our future. And so coming here today, being in this space with all of you, it's warming my soul, it's warming my heart, and it's giving me the energy I need to go do those next things, because we have 45 days to change the course of this country and, quite frankly, this world, and I'm ready to give it my all. So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this space today. I'm ready to get to work.
Thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate your words. They were absolutely wonderful. Next up, we have Representative Ruth Richardson from 52B.
Thank you, Alyssa, for the introduction, and thank you for having me today. I'm Ruth Richardson, and I represent District 52B, which includes Sunfish Lake, Mendota Heights, Inver Grove Heights, and Eagan. For almost the last 4 years, we have heard that 2020 is going to be the most important election of our lifetime. And with each passing day, the intensity of that sentiment is growing. Yesterday, the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg has again raised the stakes of this election. We have 45 days until November 3rd. And what is at stake in this election is the very soul of our democracy. We know that voter suppression is real. We have experienced voter suppression for centuries within this country. And so often we hear words like, your vote doesn't matter, it's not going to make a difference. But we know that elections here in Minnesota were decided with very small vote numbers. Bemidji was decided by just 4 votes. There was a city council race that was decided by just 1 vote. Your vote matters. Voter suppression is real, and we need to do everything that we can do to turn out the vote. We also know that basic notions of dignity and humanity are at stake within this election. White supremacy has been emboldened in this country under this administration, and it is an unsafe environment for BIPOC communities. Reproductive choice is at stake, justice is at stake, and people's very lives are at stake. We cannot let the weight of the devastating news cycle we find ourselves in distract us from the work that we need to do over the next 45 days. We cannot let the difficult news of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death distract us from our goals. We need to recognize that there has been heavy burdens carried in this country, and the last 4 years have felt a lot more heavy. And the burdens that we are facing as a state and as a country, they're not evenly distributed. If you're not exhausted every day for the next 45 days, that means that you have room to do more. Remember that Justice Bader Ginsburg, she was exhausted. Remember that Congressman John Lewis was exhausted. And remember that Black, Indigenous, and people of color working alongside you, they're exhausted too. And they don't get a day off from the harmful impact of microaggressions and systemic racism. We need Joe Biden in the White House. We need Kamala Harris. We need Tina Smith. And there is a path to get there. We need all hands on deck. Text banking, phone banking, doing lit drops, and donating as well. And most importantly, we all need to make sure that we have a plan to vote and that we are encouraging our friends and families and our neighbors and people that we don't even know to vote as well. Vote early, vote by mail, vote in person. Make sure that your vote counts. This election has life and death consequences. Follow Michelle Obama's advice and vote like your life depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Next, we have the Mayor of Duluth, Emily Larson.
Good morning, everybody. Can you see me and hear me? I hope so. I am so happy to be here. I made a quick little costume change because when we hopped on the call today, State Auditor Julie Blaha has props. And so I decided to actually put on my Women Winning shirt because one of the things that Senator Tina Smith has been such a strong champion for is Planned Parenthood, reproductive choice, reproductive health, and we will need this more than ever with the change and loss of RBG. And of course, we are all mourning her. I am so not even, it hasn't even started to sink in for me how much her loss will be real. But I do have to say, Representative, your words were so great. It was so important to be reminded that exhaustion is just the starting point of the work we have to do. And I appreciate you sharing those words and reminding us that the privilege of exhaustion is exactly that. It's a privilege. And the work we have to do collectively is to push past that exhaustion so that we can all bear that you know, tired feeling, that feeling that you have given it all, because everybody needs us to do that for one another. I have been able to work with Senator Tina Smith. This is my 5th year as a mayor, and so I have known Senator Smith prior to being United States Senator. Of course, in this role, I was able to see Tina work up close when I went out to the State of the Union, which actually was just this year, which feels like it was not just this year, but it actually was. And it was amazing to see. I had known Tina in her work here at the state. It was amazing to see that amplified and just completely poured into her work as a United States Senator. The kind of people she surrounds herself with are people who are experts in their field. She relies on their advice. She uses them. She pushes. She knows how to ask the right questions, but also seeing the kind of camaraderie and humility and compassion and kindness that she brings to the work. You can see that in her collegial interactions and how people respond to her and with her. And at the same time, what I love about Tina Smith is that she is not backing down. She knows and understands that kindness and compassion are important, and humility and honesty are key values that you have to lead with every day. And that is not, you don't step away from your strength, from your tenacity, from your dedication, from your vision, and that your ability to balance all of that just makes you a better, stronger, smarter United States Senator. Tina has been with us. The city of Duluth, she has been with me personally in countless ways, and I have completely appreciated the accessibility that Senator Smith brings to her work, the staff that respond immediately, proactive. Very regularly, her staff will reach out to me as a mayor to just ask what's going on with this, what do you need? Just the basic conversations to help inform the broader decision making that Senator Smith engages in Washington, D.C. So I have never felt so proud to be able to support you, Tina, and to be able to help get you across the finish line, strong and steady, focused, just which is exactly who you are. And one of my favorite things actually about Senator Smith is that she's the same. She is the same now as she was before this job. She is the same when the cameras are there or when they are off. If you're having dinner or a beer or you're at some big political function, to me, that consistency is authenticity. It isn't polishing up for a certain crowd. It isn't tailoring your personality to make sure people like you. It is showing up with your full being, your full self, your confidence about who you are, knowing your audience, which is important, but also showing up as yourself. And so, you know, as I'm struggling with the loss of RBG, and we all are, and I really love that we're able to talk about that openly today, as we are also celebrating the hard work and vision of Senator Smith. I was actually reminded about this quote. I'm in kind of my home office here, and somebody had sent me this card. And for me, this pandemic has just been so completely disorienting. All the things I love about my job as mayor, I don't get to do any of them. and I don't really miss the kind of show person stuff, the proclamations. That's a good part of the work. But I don't miss that. What I miss are the personal interactions where you are sitting next to somebody. They're telling you their story. You're hearing from them. You're finding out what you can do differently, better. I miss that. And so I think all of us on this call, you know, we've adapted because we have to in the time of a pandemic. And I know that Senator Smith has the capacity to help work our way out of this with the support of United States senators on our side of politics and Vice President Biden, who we, of course, are all going to work our tails off to elect as our president. But until we are at that time, I just want to share this card because to me it is like, lets me off the hook a little bit too. So in closing, I'm so glad you're here. We have work to do. Get after it, work it hard. Don't take that exhaustion as a sign to stop. Take it as that point that you're just getting started. And this quote by Emerson is how I want to end my comments today. Finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities have crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. You shall begin it serenely and with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense. So let's let go of the mistakes we've made yesterday as people, as communities, and let's dig into the possibilities of today. Thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait for November 3rd. And I don't have my I voted sticker, but I already voted for you, Senator, and it felt awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thanks for being here. And last but certainly not least, we have State Auditor Julie Blaha.
I am so excited to be here today, not only because I feel like I need to be somewhere today, but also because I've been missing you all desperately. And they told me that we're a little ahead of schedule. I'm very excited about that. Well, anyway, just to start out, how do I follow what you just heard? How do we follow that? How do you follow that? When I've been hearing things over the last day here since the loss of RBG, I've been thinking, oh my gosh, how do I rise to this moment? What can I do that's big enough? Do I need to do it all at once? I gotta do something. I've gotta do everything. Oh, nothing I do feels enough. And so that if you're like me, that might be one of the reasons you're here today. And you may still be wondering after hearing these incredible words from Tina and from Ruth and from Emily and from EMQ. I mean, just these are amazing women, the amazing messages. Is this gonna be enough? I'm going to go pick up a phone. Is that enough? Well, here's how I think of it. And this is how I thought of it in my whole career. Now, many of you know that before I was your state auditor, I am, who oversees almost $40 billion in local government spending. I was also a labor leader and a math teacher. As a math teacher, my job was to get people to do things, 8th graders in particular, and fractions in particular, that they may not always see the value of. As an organizer, my job was to get people in labor when I was treasurer of the AFL-CIO or president of my local union, to get people to take an action for something that matters. And I've always thought of one fable, and that is the crow and the pitcher. So if you know this fable, there was a crow that was dying of thirst, and the crow comes upon a pitcher. This is what I'm used for, a pitcher of water. And of course, if you know me, this is Diet Mountain Dew. But came upon a crow, but couldn't get in to get to the water. First tried to push it over. Couldn't move it. So this fable, by the way, is based on real behavior of crows. The crow decided to find a stone and put that in, and just keep adding stones one at a time until the water level rose to a point that she could drink. Now, you may think to yourself, all right, what am I doing? Well, every dial you make today, that's another stone. Every person you talk to is another stone. Every post you make to remind people where they can vote, that's another stone. And it raises the water level. And I know that. For those of you who know my history, I ran for my first office last year. And while I know everyone on this call understands how incredibly important and extremely interesting auditing is. Okay, it was always hard for me to get attention for this race. So I was never going to have some big event that got me name recognition or catapulted me into office. No, I got in on the individual actions of a lot of people. They were not big actions. They were short conversations. They were calls. They were texts. That's how I got into office. And you know, I know this approach works because not only did I get elected, but we got elected in a year that was really rough. We had just lost the presidency. And I think we were all still reeling 2 years later. The Republicans that year had their very best year. They had their best year ever. And because of these actions, because of every stone we dropped in, we won. In fact, we won with a record number of votes. We statewide candidates got more votes than ever, which was a good thing because our Republican opponents got the second highest votes ever. So just know that no matter how tough these times are, these are the actions that work. But you know, you might be saying, oh, well, if these work, well, shoot, let's do this. Let's get a boulder. Hey, let's go big. Let's just start chucking some stuff around. Let's make a rock slide. Well, I gotta say, this can be really tempting. It also can be incredibly paralyzing. When you think that this is the only action that's going to work, you may not even attempt it. But I can tell you this, this action might feel good. You might feel like chucking a big rock right now, but it doesn't work. It does not raise the water level. It will not make a point. No, this little stone, this call you make today where the person tells you some very unusual story and doesn't say yes yet, this will have more impact than this. So no, what you're doing today is all you can do. And all you can do is exactly what you should do. It's the right thing to do. It's the only thing to do right now. So every time you pick up that phone, every dial, it is again, one more rock. And if you know Tina Smith, this is also how she operates. One of the reasons I love Tina is that when I was in labor leader, we all knew, you know, we love Governor Dayton, tremendous, tremendous leader. But if you were stuck and you had to get it done, you called Tina. That was always what we said. We always said, okay, who's got Tina's number? You call Tina? If you call Tina, oh my gosh, I called Tina. And you knew that if you called Tina, stuff got done because she wasn't always the person out front, you know, pitching boulders. No, she was in the back, dropping them stones, getting every stone in there and just keep rising that water level, and just kept moving stuff. And she got things to work. And I'll tell you, don't we need more of that in leadership right now? She is exactly who we need right now. Someone who just does the work and gets it done. So I'm so proud to support her. And I also, this is why I know you'll be successful. I'm going to thank you for every call you make today. Every dial, every convo, every wild call you take that, by the way, takes that person off the list so that when I run again in 2 years, I don't have to call them. So seriously, every time you get a rough one, you get kind of a jagged little pill. Thank you, taking them off the list, and then we have to call them again. This is what's going to work. Some of you are going to be able to have some calls today that'll feel like a nice big stone, make a really big splash. And some of you are just gonna dial and not get answers. And those work. Sorry. I taught science for just a couple of years before the school realized their insurance policy probably wants to put me back into a theoretical subject. Anyway, all I could say is it's working. So keep dropping them stones. Every stone's going to work today. And to that, this is thank you to everyone today. Cheers. What you're doing today is raising the water level, and that's how we're going to win. So with that, happy dialing.
Thank you so much, Julie. That was a perfect metaphor. So thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully you're all inspired. My name is Alyssa Green. I am a political organizer for Senator Tina Smith's campaign, and I'm just so excited to be here. First of all, I want to thank all of our amazing guests for joining us today. It is so evident to me and our team that this work must continue. I am so inspired by everybody's leadership, by everybody's dedication that we've just heard for a more just world. So being here today and this morning and hearing from them is exactly what I needed to hear and be around as we're all mourning the loss of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but to also take action. So today we have to act. There really isn't another option. We need all of our voices and all of our energy Please join our organizing team. They have put a lot of work into creating so many events for this weekend of action. There are literally events that are almost on the hour. There is literally a text bank that is starting at 10:30, so in 15 minutes. So everybody, I will drop the link into the chat here and go to our, I'll read it out loud as well. It's www.mobilize.us/Team Tina. I will drop it in the chat again, but find an event that works best for you and your schedule this weekend. We need everybody on deck for this. Now is not the time to sit back. We all need to take action, whether that's for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for the people that America has lost during COVID. We need to have our voices be known, and we need to take action now. We only have 45 days. That is not a lot of time. It also feels like it's a lot of time, but it's not a lot. So make calls from your home, text from your home, find a local candidate that we have partnered with for a phone bank or a text bank, or a candidate across the state that you just support. So thank you all for joining us. Let's get to work.